Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kendra Campbell, and I'm the TD Curator of Education and Outreach Fellow at the Power Plant Contemporary Art Gallery. We are pleased to present 3 Power Talks for the 12th year, thanks to support of Art Toronto, and with special thanks to Susanna and her team. The Power Plant, located at Harbourfront Centre, just a few blocks south of here, presents contemporary art by Canadian and international artists, concentrating on emerging and mid-career artists who have not typically had a solo exhibition in Toronto or Canada. Last weekend, we opened our Fall 2018 exhibitions, featuring an immersive sculptural experience by Carla Black. Vivian Suture presents an installation of large-scale paintings with collages by Elizabeth Wilde in La Canicula, as well as the second iteration of exhibitions by Toronto-based artists Beth Stewart and Abbas Akavan. All 4 exhibitions are on view until Sunday, December 30th. To complement our exhibitions, each season we offer numerous education and public programs, so please check our website, thepowerplant.org, for more details. Visit the Power Plant at our Art Toronto booth B14, featuring a selection of exhibition-related publications and limited edition artworks by local and international artists. Today is the second of 3 Power Talks. We had Jnupa Hanska-Lugar delivered a talk yesterday, and we look forward to a talk by Sandra Guimaras, the Director of Programs and Chief Curator at the Remy Modern in Saskatoon, tomorrow at 2:30. We are very excited to have artist Kota Ezawa here with us from San Francisco. His work explores the appropriation and mediation of current events and images. Ezawa translates found film, video, and photographic images into drawings and animations that reduce complex imagery to its most essential 2-dimensional elements in order to debate their validity as mediators of actual historical events and personal experiences. This year, in addition to his Power Talk, Ezawa's video work, City of Nature, is also featured in Art Toronto's Focus California exhibition. For his talk entitled How to Take Apart an Image and Put It Back Together, please join me in welcoming Kota Ezawa.
Hello. My name is Japanese, but I was born and raised in Germany, and I moved to the US in 1994. And 1994 is when this happened. I don't know if some of you remember. In the white car belonged to OJ Simpson, and then the people in the cars behind are the LAPD. And that was just the year when I was coming to San Francisco for a year of study abroad at the San Francisco Art Institute. I was a student in Düsseldorf at that time. And then that year never ended. I still live in San Francisco. And a number of years later, that was in 2002, when I was a grad student, I made this video. It's about 2.5 minutes long, and I'm going to play it for you.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Mrs. Robertson, would you do you have the envelope with the sealed verdict forms, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you give those to Deputy Trower? And would you return those to our 4-person juror number 1? All right, Madam 4-person, would you please open the envelope and check the condition of the verdict forms?
So I think on the one hand, when I made this piece, I was coming to terms with the place that I had just moved to, the United States. But then on the other hand, there's also kind of a weird biographical link to the source material that I'm working with in this piece. So after I finished my studies at the San Francisco Art Institute, I got a job videotaping depositions for lawsuits in California, and so one of my jobs was to bring videos to courtrooms and play them, and so I feel kind of a natural affinity or connection to this media event that was happening. I'm not going to talk too much about it. If you have any questions or comments about it, you can voice them later on. Be happy to have a conversation. I'll just show you a few more pieces. The next piece is actually the piece that I made right after that, and it's a piece called Who's Afraid of Black, White, and Gray? I'm just going to play it to you.
See, George and I had this boxing match a couple of years after we were married. Bog in the history department.
The two of you?
Who's married really? To the president's daughter. Like, really? To be somebody. No, but it wasn't in a way. Daddy was always physical. So we had a couple of us over there. That doesn't have that guts to make anybody cry.
What you see is just an excerpt. In the installation, the two videos just keep playing, and it's almost like two turntables with two songs with different lengths playing against each other. The source material is, many of you I'm sure recognized, two scenes from the 1960s film Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. And also I felt some strange affinity to this material. One is I saw this film really early, way too young. I think I was 12 years old when I saw it. And I feel it completely unhinged my image of what a relationship can be and so forth. But then the other thing is I'm from a very academic family. Both of my parents have PhDs. My sister has a PhD. And so we always had these really intense dinner conversations. And this is actually also, apart from being this violent film about a marriage, it's also a film about the violence of academia, because Richard Burton plays an associate professor, and Elizabeth Taylor plays the daughter of the president of the university. So these are early pieces, and I love making these films. I do them to this day. I'm going to show a few more recent ones later on. And I'm going to jump ahead to another piece. This started out as kind of a failed piece. I was trying to, I think one of the things that I also really, that keep me here in the United States is the music. Even when I lived in Germany, I was listening heavily to bands like Public Enemy or you name it. And in this piece, I tried to use this kind of hip-hop trick of making a mashup. And my idea was to mash up the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And the experiment kind of failed. And then SF MoMA had a show honoring the work of Bruce Conner, who was kind of a punk rock filmmaker in the 60s, 70s, and died not too long ago. And they wanted to play my Beatles Stones mashup, and I was so queasy about it that I said, can I make something new? And this is what I made instead of the Beatles Stones mashup. Okay, you get the idea and you understand how it's working. So this was actually really simple to do. I just animated a few seconds of the Beatles playing Twist and Shout, and then I took this Dead Kennedy hymn, California über alles, and added the two over each other, and they kind of naturally gravitate to each other much better than the Beatles and the Stones. I never think of my work as being overtly political, or I don't even know what political means nowadays. But then I think that to me political is more kind of possible consequence that work can have. And it's, I feel you can almost not aim for it, but then this is an image of this piece being shown in Moscow by a very nice curator, and it was right around the Pussy Riot incarceration. And I felt that, I don't want to call it political, but I feel it got a different relevance in that context. I don't just make videos. This is a small sculptural piece I did for a group show at the New School in New York. That was just before the first Obama election in 2008. And it's a very innocent piece. It's just called Hand Vote. And it's very small. It's maybe this big. And but I really liked it because it's hand painted wood, so I did it in my studio. I was not staring at a computer screen while I was doing this. And I just had it sitting in my studio for a number of years when a curator from Canada, from the Vancouver Art Gallery, Kathleen Ritter, came to visit me. And she saw this little sculpture and said, "Oh, it's so perfect! Would be so perfect for our museum because the Vancouver Art Gallery at that time was the site of the Occupy movement, and she thought it would be a nice piece to acknowledge what was going on outside of the museum." And so we went and reproduced this piece in monumental scale. Unfortunately, the fabrication took so long that the Occupy movement had disbanded at the time it was installed. But still, we pulled it off. This was like enormous. It was 18 feet tall, and I feel it was almost like making public art on accident. I wasn't really aiming for that. But there it was. And I honestly also felt kind of queasy about it because the meaning of the piece, if it had one, completely changed. When it was the small piece in my studio, it was kind of a joke about democracy. And then when it was in this like enormous scale in downtown Vancouver, it looked like this celebration of democracy, which it didn't intend to be in the beginning. And this was a later installation in Washington, D.C. But then when you're doing public art, or which I did almost accidentally, it just kind of keeps landing in your inbox because not every artist likes to do it. It's in comparison to work that you do in galleries, you always have to reach a consensus with the people that are financing the work and the communities that encounter the work. But I like to do it. I have friends of all ages, and I think public art is very approachable to school kids and so forth on the bus, and not only to the dedicated museum goers. So I keep doing it. 2 years ago, SFO approached me if I would make a proposal for one of the gate rooms that they were reconstructing. And the image that right away came to my mind was the Beatles coming out of the airplane, the British invasion thing. But I thought, that by itself would be a little bit not enough for the mind to grapple with. So again, I tried some kind of Beatles mash-up, and this time I meshed it up with Pete Mondrian and in a piece that I called Mondrian Meets the Beatles. So I just stretched the Mondrian composition over the Beatles piece, and the airport went for it, so we produced it. And we had some budget to fabricate the piece, but then I also assembled a painting crew. This is my daughter Zora, who's actually sitting in the second row here, and she was she was painting Ringo, and some other friends painted other people, and I just took the airplane here and saw the piece. That's kind of what it looks like at SFO right now. This is a public artwork in Oakland that I'm installing right now. It's It's funny. It's based on a protest image from I think, I'm not sure that it was in Toronto, but it's a protest that happened in Canada. But I cut out the figures of this Canadian protest. You can see it by the clothes they're wearing. It's super cold. It's not a Californian protest. But then I superimposed Oakland into the background. And it's a very, I mean, I know what you, at this point, I think I know what it takes for financier to nod to this. This looks innocent enough of a protest that they would have that on the outside of that building permanently. But I was very happy about this piece because it got commissioned in the summer of 2016, and then we all know what happened in the fall of 2016. But one thing that happened in Oakland was that the residents of Oakland built a human chain around Lake Merritt. So this funny drawing that I made in the summer of 2016 almost was like a little prophecy of what was happening later on around the lake. Okay, I feel I can pack one or two more things into your brains before I take off. So this is this last body of work that I was showing where I was drawing paintings that were stolen from different museums. I thought that might be my work sometimes, because I'm kind of a copycat. My work functions almost like placeholder for works that are not there. So I reproduced these paintings stolen from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. Like this is a Manet painting that was stolen, and a Rembrandt. And that by itself felt like gratifying, but it didn't feel enough for me to be kind of a body of work that engaged me. But then this kind of funny thing happened in the New York Times. Was this article that a surveillance tape by the FBI had been unearthed, which might lead to the whereabouts of the painting. So my gallery show that I did with Murray Guy in 2015 in New York was the recreation of the suite of paintings, as well as the recreation of the surveillance tape. And the surveillance tape is very uneventful. But I was hoping that something would happen, that they would find the paintings while the show was up, or that there would be some weird twist, and then that the show would completely lose its, or change its meaning. But nothing happened. They didn't find the paintings. As this was the scene that the FBI got excited about. You saw this guy in a trench coat walking into the museum in the middle of the night, but he never got identified, and paintings weren't found. But for some reason, this kind of work hit a nerve with the art world and was shown in a number of places. This is a show in Los Angeles at Christopher Grimes Gallery. And the video I always showed as these kind of surveillance monitors on the front desk of the gallery. And then it was also shown, which I really liked this installation, at the Mead Art Museum in Amherst, Massachusetts. They have this period room. So my work is digital and was shown in these very contemporary looking LED light boxes, but then hung on these old panel wall next to stained glass windows. And then the show, from there, it traveled to Site Santa Fe. And at Site Santa Fe, you're from Santa Fe, right? Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. But for Site Santa Fe, I thought I have to put the cherry on the pudding, and I made another video, which I'm going to play for you right now.
famous Istanbul dagger contains the 4 world's most priceless emeralds. The Topkapi treasury is also famous for the extraordinary ornamental headdress worn by the past.
Maybe that's enough. This is all footage from Hollywood films that depict museum heists, and I thought that would be kind of a triumph to show this in a museum, so it'd be like kind of a how-to manual, how to remove objects from a museum, in a museum. Yeah, but the thing that was a little bit hard to see with the screen was that I have this technique of redrawing found footage, but in this case I left the art objects real, so it was kind of a weird reversal of realities, that reality was fiction and fiction was reality or something like that. I'm gonna end by showing you what I'm working on right now. I spent the last year in Germany, and this kind of being abroad is always a nice opportunity to think about the things that are going on here in North America. And that's right when these football player protests happen, and they actually started in San Francisco, my new hometown. And I was really moved by them, honestly, because at this point I'm also a US citizen, but I feel what these football players did during the national anthem pretty much expresses my feelings about the United States. It's a country where I live and where I am, but I would never, it's also a very split relationship that you have to this country when you live there for the amount of time that I have. And what I'm doing, apart from making these Illustrator files, I also transfer them to watercolor paper and then paint them in watercolor. This is me in Germany with my youngest son, Mika, making watercolor paintings. These are some of the watercolor paintings. And there's also going to be a filmic component to this project, and I'm going to end with that. I'm going to play that, and then if you have any comments or questions, go ahead with that. That's all I have.
Excellent. If anyone has questions, I have a mic to come around. Perhaps I'll kick things off with a question. So the aesthetic that you're aiming at seems to point in tribute, we'll say, to something more like graphic novels. Is there a connection in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, of course I read graphic novels like most people have when they were young, but I never aimed to be a cartoonist or something like that. It's just, it's more kind of like a byproduct of the project, this aesthetic. It was one early comparison that was made was to this TV series South Park, but I had really never watched South Park prior to making this work, and I'm not a big fan. It's in a way, I was always trying to make the opposite of a cartoonist. I was never trying to really crack a joke, or I was also not trying to do satire, or I feel there's actually very little irony in the work that I'm doing. It's very kind of, I would almost call it like verite. I try just to show things the way they are.
Anyone with questions? Well, that being a no, we'll extend a very special thanks to Kota Ezawa. Oh. What's that?
Okay.
I just wanted to find out where what the
Yeah,
corporate person who's allowing the protest
It's
to bring it.
on 29th and Telegraph. Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Well, very good.
Okay, thanks
Well,
for
thank you
coming.
so much to Kota Ezawa. Thank you for all attending.